Hey everybody, it is Kerry, and we are getting ready for the winter camping season, and we have a new diesel heater. This is from Sunster. Now, believe what you will, all I can do is tell you what they've told me, and they said that they are the manufacturer for many other brands that are out there. Now, what brands that may be, I don't know, but we're going to discuss it and compare it to something else that we have. So let's start with what we have here, right? So we have a toolbox style heater. Inside, we've got our tank and our heater unit. Underneath is the fuel pump. Pretty simple design, nothing too complicated there. On one side, we have our hot air exhaust, visible line to the fuel so we can see how much fuel is in it. We have our fresh air intake on this side. On the bottom, we have our diesel exhaust, and there's a box down here which is the diesel engine intake. So pretty basic configuration. It does come with a remote control, and there's a controller built in. And you can also use the Air Heater BLE app, which is standard with a lot of the units out there. Now, it comes with a power cord with 2 leads on it. So if you're going to use this with like a cigarette lighter adapter, you're going to need to cut these off and connect a cigarette lighter adapter, unless you already have one. It is the same plug that we find on most of the 12-volt refrigerators that are out there. So if you have one for that, that'll work. Has a muffler, has an exhaust, has some clamps in it, and it has a 3-inch heater hose to go on here to go into your tent or workshop or whatever. The very interesting thing about this hose is it is an insulated hose. I have not seen that on any other diesel heater. I've actually replaced all my hoses with insulated hoses. This one comes with it. That's going to prevent heat loss when this is sitting outside and you're blowing this like into your tent. It's going to minimize that heat loss. So that is very, very cool. I'm going to put these items down for a moment, and we're going to compare that to the H-Calorie SS2. Now this has been my go-to heater, and it's pretty cool. I did a bunch of modifications to it, some soundproofing, a different pump, a dampener, all kinds of things to make this thing as quiet as possible. And this has been wonderful to have out at campsites. Now, exterior-wise, got to admit, they look identical, other than the color of the metal. However, when we compare a few things, we do notice that the remote controls are different and the controllers are different. This is one that I've seen on other units. This is one I've never seen on any other unit. I'll give you some close-ups of that so you can see the difference. But first impressions are that they're probably going to be the same. So the question is, are they? Well, when Sunster reached out to me and said, hey, we'd like you to try our diesel heater, I said, look, I already have 3-4 diesel heaters around here. I really don't need another one. So unless there is something actually unique about this, I'm really not interested. And they wrote back and they said, valid point. You know, it is very, very similar to the SS2 with a couple changes. Number one, the controller. They claim this is a better controller. It does use the same app. So there's that, right? Uses the same app. And, but it does physically look different. They also said it is the quietest diesel heater on the market. That is a very, very bold claim, considering every diesel heater claims that their unit is very quiet, and I have yet to get one in that I would say is quiet. Every diesel heater that I have touched, from Vevor, from H Calorie, from whoever, I've had to modify to get as quiet as possible. So while that's, you know, to me that's not a big deal, but when you're claiming it's the quietest, it better be. So I said, fine, go ahead, we'll send it over. It was in the middle of summer, so I said, don't expect any video on it soon because it's 100 degrees and there's no point in me doing a video of a diesel heater when it's 100 degrees outside. However, it is now getting cold in the mountains. We had our first snow a few days ago up there, and we're gonna go do some camping. And we're gonna see how well this works. But first, of course, I need to test it, make sure it's all working, and we'll see, you know, how much noise does this thing put out, and do I need to modify it in any way to make it really useful? Well, one thing, a couple things that I actually plan on doing, if this becomes my go-to unit, first off, the exhaust port on here is pretty tight. To get a hose on here and a clamp, not a lot of room to work on here. So what I would do is find an adapter or something where I can just extend this out a little bit, get a better hose connection on here. Secondly, I found that when it is very cold outside, having a recirculating system makes a lot of sense. Instead of sucking in temperatures that are well below freezing, trying to heat it up and pump it out the other side, if I'm blowing hot air into the tent and I have another hose coming out going onto the intake, it's going to make the unit way, way more efficient. So in order to do that, well, there's nothing here. So I have a design that I used on the SS2 for an inlet on here where I can attach a hose. So pretty simple. I'll print up another one of those, get it on here so that we can have a recirculating system. Other than that, I don't plan on doing any modifications before we go out and actually use it. So I'll deal with the hose on this side. I can't, just as a note, right? I'm not gonna 3D print a piece on here because this side will get very, very hot. And if I'm using any type of PLA or anything, it has the possibility, right, of getting that plastic hot and emitting some toxic fumes. So there will not be a 3D printed piece on this side. I would use metal or something to affix that. This side is fine using 3D printed parts because there's no heat on this side. It's just going to allow me to mount a hose on here and the air is going in this way. So even if the air coming in there is 50, 60 degrees, not a big deal. So we need to get it on the ground. We're gonna plug it into a Blue Eddy AC70 because those always seem to work with diesel heaters, and we'll give it our first test. Well, I'm sitting here doing the first test of the Sunster diesel heater, and I'm kind of blown away actually. I mean, this is on level 6, or level 5, sorry, it's on level 5 right now. And all you can hear is the blower. There's a very, very, very faint hint of the pump in there, but this is by far, bar none, the quietest diesel heater I've ever seen. And that's including the ones that I've gone through and made as quiet as possible. This, right out of the box, is super quiet. Like I said, all I can hear really is the blower. This is absolutely incredible. So I'm gonna go ahead, we're gonna crank it up. I'm gonna put it on level 8, pretty high. I hear the fan starting to kick up a little bit more. Amazingly, I don't hear the pump at all at this point. This is crazy. Now, generally in the rooftop tent, I'm running this on about a 2, or I'm running my other diesel heaters on a 2. And at that point, I can still kind of hear the ticking. So what I'm gonna do, we're gonna kick it down Put it on level 2, and we're gonna see what happens. With the blower, with the whole heater turned down, is the ticking going to be more pronounced? Kind of. And no, now I don't hear it at all. Okay, here's my microphone. Right next to it. You can kind of hear the ticking sound. But this being 3-4 feet away from you outside, you're not going to hear that at all. And in our, I should probably put my microphone back. Now, if we were 3-4 feet away from this thing, or it was down on the ground, and we're up in the rooftop tent, yeah, we're not going to hear this thing at all. Well, I hear a clanging because my exhaust is a little loose. I didn't tighten that down. And that's it. So I can't wait to get this thing out and give it a try. We used the Sunster toolbox diesel heater out in the mountains a couple weekends ago, and it was down to about 25 degrees at night. Kept us nice and toasty inside. And I did try with and without recirculating the air, and it really didn't make any difference. I reached out to Matt over at Ozark Overland Adventures, asked him for his opinion on recirculating the air coming from the tent. He said, don't bother, it's a waste of time. He's tried it with and without, and now he just goes without it. And so that's what we're gonna do as well. It's a much easier setup, and we don't need to deal with the extra hose, the extra space it takes up, and set up and tear down time. It made no difference for us. We were nice and toasty inside. The key is to use the shortest hose you can. If you can get away with a 3-foot hose, great. If you need a 4 or 5-foot hose, fine. But don't go and get a 12-foot hose just to move it as far away from your tent as possible for the blower noise or stuff. You're just going to lose efficiency with that. So keep it as close to your tent or campsite or whatever your vehicle as possible for your best results. Now, I will say the one thing that I don't really care for on this is the exhaust pipe. It is like right on the ground. So when we were at the campsite, it was sitting on top of dry grass. So I ended up putting it on top of some rocks to just get it up off the ground. When it's on the back of our trailer, again, I raise it up because this is sitting basically right on the edge of the trailer where a door is, and there's some seal, some seal around that, and I don't want that to melt. So I do raise it off the ground. One tip that I got from somebody was to get 2-inch PVC pipe and cut it down, and that will just fit perfectly onto the legs. Cut them to whatever size you need, raise it up off the ground, and you'll be just fine. Otherwise, I love the form factor. It's nice and small, very compact. It worked great. We went through about a half a tank of fuel overnight, running it on, I believe, like a 3 or 4 setting. Nice and warm. Didn't go through a whole lot of diesel fuel. Now, in terms of what do we really like about it, there's no pump noise. I mean, there is just no pump noise. There's none of that tick-tick sound. If it's on a low setting, like a 2, and you're close to it, you can kind of hear a subtle tapping sound. But if this is a few feet away from you and you're running on a 3 or 4 setting, you're not going to hear it. And in fact, the whole system was so quiet that at one of the campsites we were at, the sound of the river 50, 60 feet away was louder than the heater itself. So we like the fact that it's nice and quiet. We like that it's compact. We like that it worked well. And on Amazon right now, you can pick this up for $161. There'll be a link in the description below. It is an affiliate link, doesn't cost you any. extra to use my links for it, but it will, you know, help the channel out a little bit. So that's the Sunster Toolbox diesel heater. We absolutely like it. It works great. The size, the performance, really top notch. Love what they did with this thing. The app worked great. The remote control worked great. No complaints whatsoever. So if you're looking for a diesel heater, the Sunster Toolbox should definitely be one for you to check out. Like I said, thumbs up from us. Really good purchase here. Well, they sent it to us, but it would be a good purchase for anybody out there. We really like it. And we've got a couple other diesel heaters on the way that we're going to test out. We are going into winter. It's actually cold here right now. It's about 45 degrees. So it is getting ready for some winter camping with some diesel heaters. And we're going to do some head-to-head comparisons in terms of noise, fuel performance, battery draw, all that. And we are going to end up with an absolute winner by the time we're done. But right now, the Sunster Toolbox, absolutely at the top of our list. So check it out. You're not going to be disappointed. Now, if you like these product review videos, please let me know. I think we only do stuff that is really for overlanding, camping type stuff. We don't really get into other weird products that we get offered every day. So if you like this stuff, please hit the like and subscribe for additional stuff out there. We really appreciate it. Helps the channel out. But from Katerina and myself, and of course Lucas, stay safe out there and a bit warmer, and we'll see you on the trails.